We're live on Facebook as well. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We appreciate you. Appreciate you guys waiting around. We kind of have a fashionably late crowd, so we kind of let people kind of come in. And then, as we say, we're community centered. So when y'all get here, we start. So we don't push too hard. So, but again, thank you so much for coming. This is our March edition of Cap Talk. If you follow us on Facebook or social media of any kind, or even in the news, thank you to MLive, thank you to the Michigan Now who's here today, and other agencies. The message is getting out that us with Cap, we want to center the community. We want to hear from you. Our standard way of doing things, we do a quick 10-minute presentation, and then we want to hear from you because we don't want to talk all day. You can go anywhere. People can talk at you. We'll have a piece, and then most of the time it's for you. So again, we want to thank you so much for coming out. And we're ready. We can get started. As you all know, March's topic for our Cap Talk is on policing in the community, whether it's in the city, or whether it's countywide. We want to talk about it. And most importantly, the community wanted to talk about it. We get a lot of feedback from the community about topics and things that people want to talk about. And this is one of the major ones. It's also a tough one to talk about as far as getting people to show up for. A lot of people are afraid of this conversation. I'm here to let you know that Cap isn't afraid of it. We talk about what you want to talk about. And if it affects the community, we're going to talk about it. And we're going to get to the bottom of it. So without further ado, we'll get started. So we got a short video.
There's a conversation to be had about policing in the black community that we don't have in any other community. It's time to talk about it. We're not going to run away from it. We're hitting you head. Join us on Saturday. Cap Talk. Need it.
Short, sweet. And we're here today. Policing is one of those things, it's a polarizing conversation because you got a lot of people on either side. And a lot of times the conversation is polarizing because people are entrenched on their side. You're entrenched on your side. If you're a police supporter, you don't want to hear nothing else. You just support the police, no matter good, bad, and different. And then if you're on the other side, oftentimes the side where the reality is, you have a different experience. Us with Cap, we want to talk about that different experience. You should be able to walk in truth. You should be able to say, policing is good, it's necessary, but it has to be done right. And if it's not done right, there has to be accountability. So we want to talk about it. So as stated, so as you can see on the screen here, if you take a look at the screen here, this is where our presentation is. We want to talk about something in particular when we talk about policing inside, and that's the Secure Cities Partnership. If you've never heard of the Secure Cities Partnership, we'll explain it. The Secure Cities Partnership, at its inception, in the beginning, it was started by Governor Snyder. In 2012, Snyder outlined his plan for a Secure Cities Partnership. The plan was added to the subsequent budget. His quote, "It's time to reinvent public safety in Michigan. Our state can't reach its full potential until we tackle the problem of violent crime in our cities. It devastates families, leaves neighborhoods in fear, and robs our state of its economic vitality. But we can overcome these challenges through a collaborative, comprehensive, and long-term approach. By moving forward with a system of smart justice, we will hold chronic offenders accountable for their actions, bring peace of mind to community residents, help to break the cycles that perpetuate crime, and unleash Michigan's economic growth. That was his quote. And so the intent of the policy, the intent of the program, it was originally designed for Flint, Saginaw, Pontiac, and Detroit, all urban areas. The program dedicated resources, officers, supplies, special units, et cetera, in order to reduce crime. That was the intent. The reality of it is that there's been over-policing in the communities of Flint and Saginaw by Michigan State Police, let's be clear, Michigan State Police. Very frequent traffic stops and confrontations that grow resentment and escalate tensions in the community. Also, MSP are 2 to 3 times more likely to start vehicle pursuits that result in death or injury in majority black cities where extra troopers have been assigned, according to 2 different lawsuits filed on behalf of victims in 2 pursuit crashes in Flint. And of note, just so you know, the state of Michigan spends nearly $8 million a year on this program. In this most recent report, MSP outlines the personnel their program employs, crime statistics, and actions taken in a year-long period. The communities of Flint and Saginaw have by far the highest concentration of units deployed and actions taken. Saginaw has 23 dedicated personnel with this program, and Flint has 42. This graph here, and I want to get closer to it because I want to point something out. Look at Saginaw. We have 5,800 traffic stops. This is in the year 21. This is the year 2021. This is just MSP. This is not Saginaw City. This is not sheriff. No other agency. This is just MSP. 5,800 traffic stops. 5,500 verbal warnings. I'll say it again. 5,800 traffic stops. 5,500 verbal warnings. I don't know what you think about that, but I'll tell you what. That's legalized stop and frisk. That's all. It's efficient expedition. I'll even tell you as a resident of Saginaw where this happened. A lot. On our side of town. On the east side of town. I can tell you just on Hess in Genesee, Dixie area, heavy. It stopped people from walking across the street because it's not a crosswalk. Okay. Let's get into the truth. The truth about policing. And these are real arrest rates. And I'll explain what a real arrest rate is. So in 2018, this is the stat where this is pulled from. The rate of arrest for serious felony crimes reported to police was about 22%. But because twice as many crimes happen as the police are told about, the arrest rate for all crimes that happened was half of what police reported, just 11%. But then I'm gonna take a walk over here again. Look at this graph here. So you're talking about actually 50% of crime, half the crime they don't even know about. So you're talking about half the amount of crime. They only make an arrest 11% of the time, and they only convict 2% of the time. 50% of the time out of 100. So you think about 100% of crime, they only know about 50%. They only make an arrest 11% of the time, and they only convict 2% of the time. What does that say? Policing is not really effective. These are the numbers. This ain't Jeff Bulls telling you what I think. These are the numbers. Policing is not especially effective at reducing violence. You see the numbers. And here's the explanation. Police typically deal with violence only after somebody has already been killed, injured, otherwise harmed, And even then, many police departments are alarmingly ineffective at holding anyone accountable for violent crime, as reflected by low clearance rates. What's the clearance rate? The clearance rate is how many times they actually catch someone and they actually convict. Chicago, you got about a 40% clearance rate. And it drops when you talk about black people. It actually drops in half. So you're already at a low percent, and then it drops another half when it comes to a specific people. That should tell you something. That should tell you something. But as a community person, and many of you are community people, we know what really, drops crime and reduces crime. Investments in housing, healthcare, jobs programs, education, after-school programs, gun control, environmental design, and violence interruption programs have all been proven to quantifiably reduce violence, not incrementally, quantifiably. For example, one study found that every additional community-focused nonprofit in a medium-sized city leads to a 12% reduction in homicide rate, a 10% reduction in violent crime, and a 7% reduction in property crime. In Philadelphia, this is all stats now, in Philadelphia, simply cleaning vacant lots, it resulted in a 29% decrease in gun assault. Just cleaning up. I'm here to say there is no connection between violence and police budget. And as you know, police budgets go up every year, without fail. Not even challenged. America has steadily increased police funding year over year, regardless of whether crime rates are going up or down. There is no documented connection between the two. And the two, we're talking about police violence and police budgets. Violence and police budgets. There's no correlation. In 2020, for example, Houston, Nashville, Tulsa, and Fresno all increased their police budgets and still saw increased homicide. Most experts believe the recent increase in homicides in some cities is due to the pandemic, economic stress, unprecedented gun sales, and the defunding of community service, not a lack of resources for police. We'll tell you where the connection is, though. We do have a connection between violence and defunding social services. When you defund social services are things that actually help the people. When you defund those things, that's when you see an uptick in violence. This is, you can't argue against it. So police typically deal with violence only after somebody has been killed. But what we do know about violence, is that it's a complex public health problem with numerous interconnected causes. Violence is caused by many different things, including poverty, alcohol, guns, interpersonal conflict, unmet mental health and social needs, juvenile trauma, and more. It is no wonder then that relying on a single approach, policing, has not worked in the past. It is not going to work to meet the moment now. We know what works to build safe and healthy communities. Reducing violence is difficult and it takes time, but the solutions are not mysterious. To see them in action, just look at a nearby affluent majority white neighborhood or community. Here in Saginaw, we know a nearby affluent community. A few of them actually, they surround us. You're likely to find a neighborhood where people have stable, well-paying jobs and access to well-funded public services, experience little violence, and have a fairly small police force that responds only when it is wanted. Instead of fully and equitably funding all these same approaches in low-income communities and communities of color, we overfund the police year after year. I don't know about y'all, but this is a critical moment. And we've had many critical moments. But this is a critical moment to decide which path we're going to take to combat violence. Are we going to continue the racist, harmful, dangerous status quo of endlessly cutting blank checks for police while neglecting proven alternatives? Or will we finally decide to fully invest in a more effective, multi-pronged approach to public safety and community health? Choices are ours. That's all I got. Thank you so much. This is a tough conversation to have with a lot of people because, again, you're talking about a polarizing conversation where, you're talking about, how people feel when it comes to violence, whether they feel safe, so many things. And that's why we wanted to get feedback from everybody. We get it all the time. We get it even when we announced that we were going to have this cap talk. But we're here today. And, we also have people on the stream. So those who are not here, who are on the stream, please put your questions in the chat. We'll do our best to answer them and get back with you. But thank you so much, you guys, for coming. And now we get to the question and comment portion of our cap talk. We want to hear from you. Does anybody have anything that they want to, maybe I missed something or maybe you disagree with something? Please let me know.
Is it a program that the Michigan State Police, is that a program the city funds? Do you have a budget for that?
It's a state funded program. It's called the Secure Cities Partnership. It's funded at the governor's office. It's covered at the state level.
Is there anything the voters can do to limit the number? Because most of those officers are not from Saginaw, so most of the city feel, or some of the city feel like by them not being from around here, they can care less about the citizens here. So is there any way we can limit that number as voters to bring that number down, or is it something else we can do about it?
Yeah, I'll tell you. A year after it was implemented in Detroit, they voted it out. Their city council said we don't want it.
Yes.
And they voted it out. To me, that's our challenge here.
Okay.
When we talk about action items, when we leave this meeting, that's action item number one for me. Maybe, I'll leave it up to you guys to whether you agree or not. But when you don't want something, you find a way to get rid of it. That's the way to get rid of it.
What's the alternative to the state police being here and doing the job? What's the alternative? Considering the amount of guns that they have removed from the streets due to all these traffic stops, and a lot of the traffic stops unwarranted, unnecessary, but that's how they get the guns. So what is the alternative? Because if we don't have the state police here, we're only relying on the local municipal police force. There's no way in the world that we're going to get that amount of guns off the street doing what it is we do. So that's my question. What's the alternative?
My alternative, for a local problem, there's a local solution. So, you got the state that's funding it at a certain clip. To me, our local municipality should find a way to fund that same level of coverage. If just me as a taxpayer, I feel like I want more city police. So, whether that's, met with a village or what have you, I want more city police. If that can't happen, I want my city government, in particular my city manager, and my state rep, my state senator, I want them advocating to get more money here to fund local police. that's an alternative to me. Also, even if the program doesn't change and it stays here, we want more accountability. Y'all are this program has MSP in our city basically harassing the hell out of people. That has to change. That has to change, and people should be made to feel bad for having that expectation. That's a low bar. That's a low bar. So those are just, for me, a couple. I think, number one, I think we should have more local police. If you're going to have more police, they should be local. They should be people that live here. They should be people that could be able to pull up on a Miss Carpenter and say, hey, Miss Carpenter, how you doing? And she knows who they are. And they've made a sincere effort to procure a relationship with Miss Carpenter and not just pull her over when you think her light is out on her, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that's the issue. And that's what he raised. You have a program that's bringing in officers that don't even live here. So if you don't live here, guess what? I can treat them any type of way because I'm getting on the highway and I'm leaving. We had to reverse engineer that.
I mean, and just a comment, but like, if they don't take police calls, I understand guns and all of that, but they're not taking police calls. They're here to stop and frisk. They're here to harass. I've been stopped by 4 times by the state police in over just the last 2 years. And like one of them was like for my lights being off for 10 seconds. And he wrote me a ticket for that. So the alternative is even if they're going to be here, why don't they work with the City of Saginaw Police Department? Why is Ruth not actually partnering that program with them instead of it just being something that comes out from the state, hey, we're going to do this. They're harassing in Flint, Saginaw, and Bay City. And Detroit's the only smart one to say, hey, we got to get rid of it. Because they're only stopping for pretext stops, license plates out, stuff like that. Like, it's profiling.
Absolutely. And that needs to be understood as well, because I didn't cover that in my presentation. Part of this, the Secure Cities Partnership, and part of them being here is they don't answer 911 calls. They are literally just on the move and just on a fishing expedition. They're just driving. Now that's not to say that they never answer 911 calls, but their primary responsibility is that they don't answer 911 calls. Now, I would like to think that, if they were called and it was some type of real big emergency and they hear it, that they would show up. I would assume. I'm going to assume good on that end. But as part of the program, they are not required to answer 911 calls. That's not even on their radar. They're just driving around. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the presentation. Me personally, I've seen the good, bad, and ugly. I've seen some good things. I've seen some not so good things. And just to respond to Mr. Charles' bit, there is a collaboration with the city police and the state police. They're here to do certain things. Now, when they go beyond that scope, then that's left up to their leadership. Then you know, a lot of times, like I'm on Facebook and I ask questions, et cetera, you hear a lot of people complaining, but I don't see the complainers in here today. Because this would be, everybody don't know about CAP, and that's fine. But I know a lot of people have had that on their page, et cetera. And this would be the time to get understanding and all that get understanding. And you could have come here today and voiced your opinion and got some information, in regards to some things that are going on. If you all were at last council meeting or you tuned in, I said some things in regards to that collaboration. So it is there. But you have to not only hold those officers that all of them are bad. We got to know that. We have to know that. But then we have a responsibility too to also work with our law enforcement, not just when it hit home. Let me give you an example, and I don't want to take a lot of time. I was coming out of my mom's backyard, crossing, you know, how you cross over out the yard and go to the store. It's not too many people, at least, I'll say at least 25, 30% of the people in Saginaw know me or my family. I even say more than that. So I crosses out. I had a state policeman, and I went to city council only because I wanted a record, a lifetime record of what happened. Pulled a gun on me, just crossing over. And I said, I didn't have a lot of sense then. And some people question it now. That's all right. I'm just playing. Anyway, but I asked him. I said, "What are you gonna do? You gonna kill me tonight?" It was another state trooper in that parking lot, and he said, "No, I'm protecting my partner, which was his partner, just both from state police." Horrible. But also, I've had some good things. But most of my good stuff, and I've had communication with them. I've had programs, state police send they hired to my programs and spoke and introduced. We have to come out of that mindset like somebody's against us. Some are. We're not gonna play like it's not. But we have to build that relationship, you know. And I have a program coming up, and I'll let you all know later. But we have to build that relationship. Talk to the police. When we had New Alternative, and people say I've talked about that a lot, our children, our youth, they knew the police officers. And when police stopped them, they knew. Okay, Joe, now you know, Miss Sylvia, Miss Pam wouldn't like that. We had that relationship. Our children have to stop being afraid, but then we have to hold those officers accountable that are making our children afraid. So it goes both ways. We just have to have that conversation. I wish more officers were in here today to hear the conversation, and more people that's got a lot to say that's not here today. I wish they were here to communicate. That's how we're gonna resolve some of these issues.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say, he said, what's the alternative? What's the alternative to what? Because it's two things we're talking about. He was talking about guns, getting guns, but we talking about getting treated like people, not being abused, not being harassed, something that happens. I take care of my mother. She's 88 years old. We saw the police go into a house. They was raiding a house. I'm watching soap operas. I come in the living room, and four police with army headgear on, with assault rifles, come through my front door and knock my mom down. Pull up a truck, a van, cars, raining, put my mama on the porch. My mama on the porch in the rain with no warrant. No warrant. Handcuff my son, threaten my son later. So we're talking about two different things. In a country that loves weapons, what's a weapon to talk about? Confiscating a weapon. I saw a police shoot a man in a car on Fulton and drag him about 100 feet down the road so he could say something else happened. So I've heard this conversation. I've seen Cap in the 60s, in the 70s, and in the 80s, and talking is nothing. As far as I'm concerned, what we going to talk about? The truth. It's a whole bunch of guns, and it's a whole bunch of people getting played by the police, and acting right don't get it. It's 2023. Acting right don't get it. Getting shot in the back of the head in Grand Rapids while you handcuffed with your face to the ground, that don't get it. Talking. People have to be held accountable. And it's not against the law to kill people. Not black people. It's not against the law. That's why they keep doing it. It's not against the law. Is it? Don't nobody go to jail. Hire me. So, talk about what needs to be done. We did that. We wore ties, we straightened our hair, we talked and we kept our eyes down. We didn't raise our voice. We did everything. And just like Lucy and Charlie Brown, every time he thinks she's gonna hold that football, every single time. So, you know, where we gonna go?
This is my issue. You know, being on Genesee Street, you see a lot of things on Genesee. All right, I'm gonna give you two examples. One involving my wife and I. I'm gonna do that last, but I'm gonna do one that just recently happened. That bad snowstorm we had, a young man's car stopped in the middle of the street, and we called for a record truck for them to pick his car up. Well, the state police, the record truck showed up, but so did the state police. And the guy was standing outside of his car talking to a regular Saginaw police officer. And the state police got out of the car, asked him a question, and then patted him down. And he asking the police officer, "Why are you patting me down? I just need my car out the street." And to this day, I even asked, I said, "Why are you doing this to this guy? He just needs some help, man. What gives you the audacity to come up here and frisk this guy for no reason?" See, it's a difference between getting guns off the street using right tactics. But just to go up and violate somebody's rights like that, that is wrong. I don't care how you slice it. True enough, you want guns off the street, but you have to do things ethically. See, Reg can pull, I know Reg, I know him well. I know the majority of the black police officers in Saginaw. But when you know us and our culture, you have to understand our culture where we talk with our hands. Reg wouldn't believe me having a conversation doing this is aggressive. But people that don't deal with us every day, that live somewhere else, gonna always say to us, that's aggressive behavior. Stop resisting. We just asking for information. Why are you doing this? We're not being aggressive. We have a right to ask those questions. My question is, who policed the state police? Because they in my opinion, they overstepped their bounds with the city. They act to me that they even superior over the Saginaw police officers. Like, they get out the way, I got this. To me, that's wrong. Now, I got to tell you about this with my wife and I. We ain't old, but we ain't young either. We ride down Jefferson Street going the correct way, up Jefferson Street. The state police was coming down Jefferson Street going the wrong way. You know, Jefferson only goes one way. I didn't know if they were watching somebody or looking for somebody, so I gave him the right of way. I stopped in the middle of the street so he could do whatever it is he wanted to do, right? So I stopped, he passed me, I went down the street, I looked in my mirror, he got his lights on, pulling me over. So when he walked up to I have every right to ask you what you pulled me over for. He couldn't tell me. This is what he did though. He said, "Give me your driver's license," and I said, "I'm not giving you nothing until you tell me why you pulled me over, because I was doing you a favor. I was doing my right as a citizen to stop and let you do what it was you were doing. I happened to be driving a car with a dealer plate." This is what he said to me. "So you want to be a smart so-and-so, huh?" Opened my door and took my plate out the back window and didn't give it back to me. I called the state police and asked them about my plate. They had no record of it. I asked him for his badge number. He walked away from it. And I'm in my mid-50s. You can just imagine a 19, 20, 25-year-old kid getting in the same predicament I was in, and how they gonna respond. They're gonna respond in fear, because all they know is what they hear, what they've seen, and that's it. So my thing is, take the state police out of the scenario and let us govern our black officers, let them govern our east side and do, because they understand how we act, how our culture is, and how we do things, how we talk with our hands. You're going to get more out of that than you will having them state police come in here. And that's my belief.
Thank you so much. I want to go to Reggie, then I'm going to come to you.
I'm still asking the same question. What is the alternative? Because in your presentation, you talked about overfunding for police. In order for us to have more local police, we're going to have a bigger local budget. That's the only way you're going to be able to compensate for salaries and whatnot. So what is the alternative? If we remove the state police out of this situation, do you all have any idea what the city of Saginaw will look like within 6 months? Think about what it looked like prior to the state police, where the city of Saginaw scrambling, trying to figure out how to resolve and solve the homicide issue, the shooting issue. So when we talk about stats, and you had a lot of good stats, but there weren't enough for Saginaw. Talking about everywhere else, because everywhere else had the same problems with not. But when you talk about Saginaw and how we address us, take them out. We're going to have a problem if we don't have something to put in that place. So do we want to overfund to get more police? Take the state police out? What are we going to do? What is the alternative? We can sit here all day. I mean, in my work car, I've been pulled over by the state police. In my personal car, I've been pulled over by the state police. I get pulled over all the time. All right, so I get I'm a chief, for those that don't know, chief of police. I got the same issues, same problems as y'all. But what are we going to do if we take them out and they're no longer in the picture? Our problems, all they're going to do is come right back up to the surface, and now we don't have enough local police to help resolve that issue. So what's the alternative?
You have something? I'll answer that. And I think, I thought I answered it before. I didn't say we take them out and do nothing. You're right. If the numbers should show that with X amount of state police, X amount of city police, X amount of, sheriff, so on and so forth, you have numbers. So yeah, if we remove them, yeah, ideally you would have to replace those numbers. I think it's a conversation to be had. Yes, I think it becomes a conversation for all of us to have, not only citizens, but, local, city council. I think you bring in Amos O'Neill. I think you bring in a Senator Rivet. I think it's an all-encompassing conversation on policing and what we need, because just as a layman citizen, I'm looking at $8 million they're funding that program with. So we have to replace that $8 million, and I think that's a conversation to be had at the state level. To fund, if you're going to fund something, don't fund something that's coming from the outside and coming in. I would like to see that $8 million come to city council, and then we have a conversation about what the police numbers is. Again, a local problem with a local solution. That's the solution. We get more funding to be used here. We're not overfunded here. When we talk about policing, I'm talking about policing as far as the county is concerned. So, and even on a national level, you got to admit, you're talking about ballooning salary. And even with that program, it's an $8 million program that's only put, and I don't want to get sidetracked either, because it's not just a funding thing. That program is inherently racist. Look at where it's put. It's in Detroit, in Flint, in Ben Harbor, in Pontiac. I didn't hear a Troy in there. I didn't hear a Livonia. I didn't hear Bay City, Midland.
No.
They're all in urban areas. We can't get off track. Yes, we do need more funding for local police here. We do. And we need, if we can't fix that program, which we're 10 years in, we're not gonna fix that program. We gotta go. We're 10 years in. We got 10 years of stats. You can go on the state of Michigan website and look at those same stats. I ain't get them out of a vacuum. I got them off the state, Michigan.gov. For anybody that want to go look at it, go look at it. Michigan.gov. They got every year of that program, that particular diagram, and it looks the exact same every year. 5,000 people pulled over. Less than, they're not, even just by the stats, just look at it. Are we really getting a lot of guns off the street?
Is they fighting crime?
No, they're not.
It's contained. It's contained.
What's the alternative though? Because I don't have a gun.
I hate guns, so I don't have one.
It shouldn't be in my community that when I make eye contact with the police, they need to stop me. And I'm talking about the state police. And when I bring it up in a conversation, the rebuttal is, you can't look them in the eye. That sounds a lot like slavery.
Keep your
And
head
that's
down.
not right. So what is the alternative to that? What
That's
is the alternative? Because I understand
Because
the guns off.
law
But I don't
enforcement
have a
shouldn't be
gun. So why the
disrespectful.
fuck you stopping me?
I'm not even
You know what I'm
just talking
saying?
about the guns.
No, do you get what I'm saying? Well, that's what you said. You said like, what's the alternative to get the guns off the street? And I'm saying, I make eye contact with their ass and they stopping me because I had the audacity to make fucking eye contact. That sounds like slave patrol. What's the alternative
that's what
to
we
slave
talking
patrol?
Absolutely, I gotta go.
I think you were on the right subject when you're talking about the funding, the money. One of the reasons, a major reason, we have less funding for local police is we used to have a system where the state shared revenue with the cities. And as that got cut, we had to find places to cut. It included not just police, but fire department, parks and recreation. So, as the state has gotten better funding, they wish to continue to control it. They could take that same money and say, Saginaw, here's your $2 million, hire your own police officers. But regardless of who's the administration in Lansing, they've chosen to continue to fund the state police program and not return to the full revenue sharing we used to have. So when you mentioned talking with Amos O'Neill and Kristen Rivette, you're on the right track. It's going to have to change at the state level. At the moment, it is unlikely citizens of Saginaw are going to increase millage on themselves for this particular reason. Now, countywide millages seem to do pretty well because they're a more broad purpose, whether it's for the new animal control shelter, got a new millage. The whole county looks at that. But to increase our city millage is just the citizens in Saginaw. So, yes, you've heard the phrase a lot, follow the money. Until the money flow changes, the money is policy. The budget is the policy. So, if that's how it's budgeted, that is the policy. I think another alternative is not really taking the police out, but doing more site training, making sure these people are even appropriate to do the jobs. Because if during that site training you pick up that they have racial tendencies, stuff like that in their head, depression, other mental issues, then they're not fit for that job. You know what I'm saying? Why would you give a person with mental issues a gun? They don't do it with normal citizens. Why would they do it with police? So that will stop a lot of things from going on because, like my sister pointed out, if we got to walk around with our heads down without making any eye contact with police, what kind of bullcrap is that? And then back in the day, when our parents were coming up, the community knew who the police were. They knew them on a first name basis. They knew their families and stuff. The communities and the police got along back then. It wasn't a them versus us thing or us versus them. And being a person that's been subjected to racial profiling more times than I can count, and beat up by the state police within an inch of my life because I had a damn air freshener hanging from the mirror, which is why they said they pulled me over. After they beat my ass first,
Then they told the truth and said, well, if you don't hurry up and tell us where the drugs are in the car, the K9 unit gonna be here in a minute, so we're gonna sick the dogs on you. Okay, so that's why you pulled me over in the first place. You just told on yourself. You know what I'm saying? So this is where we need to be. We need to look at more of the psychological aspect and not just take them out, because I'll be the first to admit, sometimes we do need the police, because there are some situations that only they can handle that we can't. Without a lot of violence being involved, without everybody having to carry a gun around, because once again, everybody doesn't need a gun. Everybody shouldn't have one. But that's what I think will be one of the biggest alternatives, and not take them out, but get the bad apples out of the situation.
Thank you. That bad apple thing kind of irritates me.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what happens with one
That's
bad
why I
apple?
threw it in. That's
It
why I threw it in.
spoils the bunch.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you let Reggie go? Because
I'm sorry.
Reggie is opposed, so
He's
him
supposed
answering
to
questions is
park.
probably a better solution for us.
No.
Well, no, look,
Not answering questions, but he can give us a light. There's a lot of stuff I want to ask you as an officer.
I appreciate that, the alternative, because that my thing is this: we are going to consistently have issues with the state police.
Yeah.
If we don't, from the grassroots level, let me throw this out there. When George Floyd went down, my office, along with I think every other chief in this county, including the sheriff, got flooded with emails. I mean, like it was almost like a spam thing. For us to change policies, for us to make changes within our departments. And what did we do? We changed policies. We added policies. We moved on it. Because from a grassroots level, the community spoke up all at once like they've never done before.
Right.
I say that to say this. Since then, we've had 2 incidents that I know of where the state police have put their hands on people where it's been recorded, put on Facebook in Saginaw. How many of those same people that flooded every chief and the sheriff has flooded the corporal's office with emails and calls and concerns about just those 2 incidents? You do something like it's going to evoke change because it's happened at a local level. Yeah, we can have all the meetings, sit down and talk about budget and this and that, but from a grassroots level, when y'all get together, I shouldn't say y'all, when we get together, all right, when we get together and do it like that, that's what's going to make the change.
Amen.
That is what's going to make the change. Because when I ask for alternatives, that's what I'm talking, psychological evaluation. Background checks, probably one of the worst things in law enforcement. Because it's like a farming system. We need good people to come in, but shoot, they got to send them through a psych eval, but the psych eval, all they're trying to do is get paid, they little $300, $400 per person, so hey, go ahead and let them push the answers down like they want to and push them on through to the chief. I'm telling you, the vetting process for police officers, there's a lot that needs to be changed outside of the budget.
Yeah.
Outside of the budget.
Yes.
And if they turn the body cams off, instant firing.
Oh, that's automatic now.
Yeah.
That's automatic.
Everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah. If you ain't got nothing to hide, don't do it.
I was kind of going to say that we should, first of all, we're permanent. But first of all, there's no reason, in my opinion, that we don't know, or state police officers, from the Bridgeport Police, haven't come into our city to introduce and interact with us. There should be no reason that hasn't happened, and maybe it will happen. And I definitely have to concur with Reggie. We need, when we see things going on, we need to say something. If we're quiet, they're waiting for us to be quiet. So we don't say nothing. Like the incident, Terry, you were saying, he didn't give you this, he didn't give you that. I know you probably got his car number or something. Take that stuff to the top. I'm so serious. Take that. I'm a preacher that cuss sometimes.
Right.
Take that to the top. Let people know. Don't just sit back and this happened. Like I said, 200-300 people on Facebook talking about. Okay, I'm gonna give you an example. Ain't no secret with me. The state trooper
to think about is agency and knowledge. Just like how people come to city council to complain when really they should be going to a whole nother meeting. A lot of our problem is agency and the lack of knowledge.
That's right.
And that has to be acknowledged as well. So it's not that people don't care or don't, or they're not flooding the calls like how they were flooding it. They just don't know where to call. And that's real. You know, I mean, let's think about it. We only been on the other side of this thing since 1968. So where we have, on the learning curve, we have evolved at a fast pace, but it's shit we don't know. It's things that we are just coming accustomed to, and it's things we don't know. Like what you said. To be honest, I don't know. I consider myself pretty educated. I don't know who to call to report. I don't know who to call the police on about the state police. And I know I'm not alone. So that's one thing. I'm passing it to you, Chuck, and then to you.
I just want to bring it back up to, and I mean, I understand that we need to come up with alternatives, but I want to make sure we're clear that, you know, we sit here and we talk about the secured partnership. We didn't even touch on Saginaw policing. I don't really have an issue with Saginaw policing because I think they're really good at what they do. But the thing is I don't care about the alternative. The alternative right now is I'm being policed heavily, and I'm being pulled over in my driveway. I'm being cursed at by police. Yeah, so tell me how many guns they're actually getting off the street, because if they're not taking calls, they're not affecting the Saginaw policing. Or you can help me and tell me how they really affect the Saginaw policing. Tell me what they do so I can see a different view on that. But just asking me what's the alternative when I'm telling you right now it doesn't work for me as the citizen of Saginaw. And you represent me as the citizen of Saginaw. So when I'm telling you it doesn't work, and you're telling me, well, we need to find another way to make this work, because what are we going to do after they go? Well, if it's been going on since 2012, why don't we find out what we're going to do after they're gone? Because as citizens, we have that right to find out what's the next alternative, to find out, let's get rid of it and see how it goes. Get a grant liaison, get some grants for policing. There is other money that we need, that we can get. Or you say, well, we need to talk about it. We need to tell people what's going on. We need to complain about these problems. Well, I've watched city council meetings for the last 3 months where people told y'all how they wanted to spend ARPA dollars. They told y'all what they needed done and how they wanted, where it was supposed to go, and y'all still did your own thing. So we're telling you that we're unrepresented right now. The alternative is the citizens have to vote for people that represent them. Not people that's going to ask them what's the alternative if the state police are gone. No, what's the alternative if they're still there? Your citizen is in peril right now. And you represent me.
You understand I'm a citizen too, right?
I do understand that you're a citizen. And I actually love you as a person too. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to voice my opinion when you're here.
It's not that. When I'm asking what's the alternative, see, what we tend to do is we'll spout our feelings, we'll spout things that have happened, but then we don't come up with any solutions. So me asking what is the alternative to something that was posed to the audience, okay, I don't want to sit here and just talk about everything, because I can sit up here and go through all the stories I've been through. I'm not going to do that. I want to know what the solution is, because I'm in a position or positions to help. So I need ideas. I need ideas. Brainstorming. That's how those things come about. Because I don't have all of the answers myself. So that's why I asked the question.
Well, let me say, I think, and to Charles's point, I think we've gotten 10 years of evidence that don't work. So,
it's bias.
That's the state.
But where's the stats for everything that has happened? The guns, the whatever.
It's all on that graph. It's all on Michigan.gov.
But can you give
That's
us
not
some
our.
stats that shows us why they?
I didn't have any idea that this was even gonna be a topic.
No, but I'm saying you have resources to find out those kind of stats, and you have those right at your not. Can you help us find out how they're valuable to us, so then we can figure out the best way to adjust it?
Can we get that graph back up real quick?
I don't.
Because I need people to see it again. So, and you'll see at the bottom it says Michigan.gov. This is not a cap stat. As the Secure Cities Partnership, they keep their own stats and they publish them. So we're just showing you what they showed us. And, you see other things on there. It says how many felony arrests are on there or how many. It's very, detailed. I just point out two things on there to point out that most of the time they pull people over, they don't do anything. But let them go after they harass the hell out of them. The stats show it. That's not me pontificating over it or giving an opinion. The stat shows it. And they've shown that. I'll walk back over here again. Traffic stops. Verbal warning. Now, you got felony accounts, misdemeanors, fugitives arrested, suspect slides, felony in possession of firearms. It's a very robust chart. But these two numbers stand out heavily. 5,816 traffic stops. 5,544 verbal warnings. They let people go. Exactly. You have to surmise from the data. If you stop that many people, you let that many people go, you are bullshit. Sorry sorry, mama. Sorry. And we can't dance around that. And if you go to 2020 and 2019 and 2018, it'll show the same thing. You know why I know? Because I looked at it. And I didn't want to put them all up here because we ain't got that type of time. But that's the problem. And I thought we were very specific when we said MSP. This is an MSP thing. This is not Saginaw City, Sheriff, Township. They got their problems too, but we just talking about this particular program because, again, getting back to the purpose of CAP. Most people, like, hey, we got to do something about these state police. Not BV. I ain't heard nothing about y'all. If anything, y'all on the positive end. So, we want to be specific. We're specific here today. This is an MSP program funded by the state of Michigan that City Council has the power to get rid of. And y'all should hear the people here that say they don't want it no more. Detroit got rid of it. They said they didn't want it. Why? Because state police killed people. We ain't got to the kill people. We hope we don't. But why should we have to get to the kill the people for y'all to be like, hey, let's read the tea leaves. Let's get this out of here. We can talk about replacing it. We can have a robust. We can come right back to this room after they gone. We'll put it on. We'll help y'all. We'll partner with the city after they gone and say, okay, all right, y'all, what y'all want now? Let's do that. How about that? That's just my suggestion.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You saying what's going to be the alternative? I probably need to understand what is the benefit. You're saying keep the state police because of what?
No, I'm not saying keep them. I'm saying if we get rid of them.
No, because that's a false equivalent. Because what the conversation is, we getting fucked up by the state police every day. So we should say keep the state police to get rid of the guns and just stay messed up by the police. See, that's what this conversation is about. How can we? Your question is, you said you want to help. Mm-hmm. How can we stop the police, state police, from looking at black faces and fucking us over?
You got police.
But who? Okay, so that's not answer. Are you going to police them?
Look, so if something happens to me and that I don't like, I know which route I'm taking. I'm going to talk to the supervisor. I'm going to do whatever it takes.
You know what? You are that person. You know, I can't do nothing about what happened to my grandma. My mom, in my face. I could, they said, and I want to say this, because you said something about emotional. When they were going through our house, you know, they were sitting in our house talking about how they can get away with coming into your home, stealing your money, stealing your phone, never left arrest or a warrant. And I kept asking for a warrant. Where's the warrant? Because you have to have a warrant to come in my house. And they handed me a piece of paper and kept looking through the house. And when they left, it was no paper, no nothing. No names, no badges, no nothing. So you're defending them to people that
He's
are...
not doing it.
Okay, so Mama, you said I can help you do what? You can help us do what?
So
unless you change people's mind about how they do their job. Because what we're talking about is people that work and not doing their job well. And how are we going to get the state police to be softer, to be kinder, to be respectful, to not be assaulted? How are we going to do that?
Well, they need to hear that.
Oh, you mean human beings don't know how to treat people? You mean human beings don't know how to conduct themselves against other human beings?
There's nobody in this room surprised by that. That's how
We're not talking about how much it happens all the time. We're talking about you talking about an answer to getting rid of the state police. What's the alternative? You said, what's the alternative? We might be peaceful. We might not be shooting each other. You understand? What? Because what we have now is terror. We have terror and safety. Is that what you're saying? We having terror and guns off the street and no convictions and no nothing. We just have terror. And he said, neither police in my life I've never called the police for nothing. And when I've interacted with them, I have been arrested. I have been beat up. I have been in jail. No charges, no nothing. It's a condition, it's a lifestyle for blacks. And I don't want to say blacks. I'm going to just say humans. I'm going to say humans. Because people need to change. I feel frustrated because I have heard and seen this over and over. And we get in a room and we heard it, we cry. And our children will be in a room crying. Still. Saying, well, y'all stop the police from killing us.
Right down there.
Okay, I think the chart that you have here is something that Reggie is talking about. I can make statistics say anything that I wanted to say. I have been into many meetings where they have cut the tape recorder off. You know how long it's been since we used tape recorder. But it's been a long time. They have changed statistics. They have not reported stuff. And so that's why we're a little skeptical of statistics. But you have to go because this is the law of the land, what you have here. But one of the things that I have been concerned with for a long time, every time they talk about having new policemen and firemen and things like that, they'll say, well, 100 showed up, 100 applied for 2 positions. Only 30 showed up. And of that 30, we had no African American, no person of color that could pass the written test, the oral test, the background check. So therefore, they justified by hiring that other young person from Bad Acts or somewhere to come down here and police us and do the same kind of thing. But they know that that little young person that they brought in here from Bad Acts or wherever, they know that they don't know anything about doing come here because I had a pretty sad situation in Saginaw High School last year. Someone had told me that the young policemen that come in flexing their muscles because they've heard about black folks. And so when I was at a game, the game was over. They were jostling, messing with two young fellas there. And I said, okay, when this game is over with, they're going to take them out there and do something to them. And we'll never know what happened. So what I did was, I went up and walked past the young fellas. I said, hey guys, I'll give you a ride home. They said, oh yes man, I didn't know who those kids were. But in order to keep those young people from getting in trouble, I knew the police was going to follow them in the dark and going to beat the soup out of them. And then nobody could tell them that. So once they recognized me and said, oh no ma'am, we have a ride, the police stepped in and they said, you see, those are the kind of things. And see, I have a grandson that is in his late 20s. I worry about him. I didn't have to have that talk with him. I don't have to have that talk with my granddaughter as much as I do with my grandson. Because just because he's African American male, he's a threat. And so therefore, we're going to make sure that, because one time he was going out to Gratiot, visit his cousin. Police stopped him. They asked him if he had anything. He told them no. He had some banana nut bread. They took that bread, went through it, crumbled it up. In the meantime, they had him sitting on the ground with zip ties on. And then when they didn't find anything with this banana nut bread, that was it. They let him go. He was on Dixon Highway, he and his friend. They stopped him, zip tied him, set him on the ground, and then they checked the car. Well, he doesn't know the law, but he didn't know that you were supposed to have somebody there before you could search his car. But they did. So what happens is that those same young fellas could not get a job right here in the city because they can't pass the test. And that's something when we leave this room, we need to have something in mind. We're going to meet on next Saturday at 1 o'clock. We're going to have the state police there. We're going to find out what can we do. And we need to, anytime you have a problem, you need to have a solution. It might not be the right one, but it is a solution nevertheless. We know what the problem is. We know what the solution is. And so therefore we need to get busy. It is 2023. We got to stop this stuff because we're going back. When I grew up in the South, we had a gun behind every door. And you know what? One for a rabbit, one for a squirrel, one for a food, one for anything else to come in there that we could put. A gun was the sign of putting a meal on the table, not kill your neighbor. And so we don't have to go through this kind of stuff. Guns are not bad as they are, but still, we need to come up with a solution. And we know we're going to have some money for militants, and we definitely don't want to defund the police. That's not even what we're trying to do. What we need to do is have the young people from the area put yourself a police academy in the school. You can raise your own. You don't have to go out and find somebody that don't do anything about it. So that's one of my solutions. Put together a police academy and raise your own police.
I just wanted to say this before I take off. You gotta remember, I was just piggybacking on the conference. The thing is, you have Reg here, you have Bob here, you have Miss Monique. The thing is, the people that won't change seem to be in here, right? But the people that we have questions for, they don't have any representation anywhere in here. That's who we need in here. He's the same way Reg, I don't want to say I defend him, but I get his point. If he don't have the answers, right? And he's asking us to help him find the solutions. it ain't right for us to target him,
Right.
right? We give him the information and let him do his due diligence. And we have to show that we support him in doing his due diligence. The people we have a problem with are not represented in here nowhere.
Right.
Because they don't care. That's why they're not here. So we got to put pressure on them to have representation here when you do it next meeting. Have representation here from their department so they can police themselves. You feel what I'm saying? So I appreciate Rand being here, Monique being here, Bob being here, you being here, Ms. Carter, everybody, because everybody looking for the same solution. We just got the wrong people in here. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. But to that point, because they're not here, because they don't care, I don't want them. See, we can work out something if you're here. And I can say, hey, we got problem A, problem B, problem C, what you gonna do about it? But if you're not receptive, then recourse for me is, as a citizen, I'm coming to my city council and say they shouldn't be here.
Did you reach out to them?
Yeah, absolutely. We reached out to everybody, you know, all the agencies in the area and them because they were the subject of what we were talking about. So they were the first ones, actually, you know. So let me go to Ms. Monique. Go ahead. Thank you, Chair.
Ms. Carpenter was saying about how our youth, they need to become police officers. My son used to want to become a police officer. One day, his father and I, we were in my vehicle. I was taking them to his house so that he could babysit my son. We went to the McDonald's on Dixie driveway. When I was leaving out of the drive-thru, we were surrounded by police officers. They got out of the car. They had assault weapons pointed at my vehicle, at my son's head, at my head. They pulled my son's father out of the car. I was driving a Chevy Equinox, and it was a fishbowl. I had no tent, no anything. They could see all up and through the vehicle. When it came down to figuring out who it was that they were actually looking for, that young man was as different in physical description from my son's father as anyone can get. My son no longer wanted to be a police officer after that. He is afraid of the police. When we are riding, he like, Mom, there go the police. I'm like, dude, I'm not speeding or doing anything wrong. But because he had that experience where all we went to get was a Happy Meal and we had assault rifles pointed at us, that made him not want to do that anymore. He has a respect for the police because I have raised him to be respectful, but he has a disdain for the police that I don't try to change because he has that's his personal experience. He's been stopped while walking in our neighborhood. He's been stopped outside of my father's home that he's owned for over 40 years. He doesn't feel as though, like how we all said, police in neighborhoods, they should know the kids. Like if you see D. Ronnie Sparks, you should know that that's him. You should know that his mom is Rose and that Rose don't play. So if you see D. Ronnie acting a fool, you don't, if he's doing something against the law, yes, get him. But if he's just doing some young man mischief, call his mama on and get them together. We don't have those types of relationships with the police. And it hurts my heart that my son had to go through that and to have his entire, when we're kids and we dream, that's what we want to do. For him to have that dream taken because of overzealous policing, that's crazy.
Anyway, you have 2 council members in your midst. You have 9 council members in total. I want to speak on Mr. Charles when he spoke about, the council as a whole. But I have to say, we don't all vote the same. That's one thing I have to say. We don't all vote the same. And we all listen meaning us as a whole. Come to city council. It may be too late because we changed the agenda a little bit because of, law day for the youth. Tell all of us what you want. And I know things have happened before and it seems like you didn't hear. We hear and some listen. But come and tell city council, we don't want the state police. I'm sitting here, my wheels turning. Anybody know I'm going? Because I can't, I would be remiss not to mention Ms. Collins. That just, let me say it this way, that's effing me up. That's got me just, woo! And there's some places she can go. And it's a shame that she would probably have to hire attorneys, etc. But y'all already know where I'm going in my mind about that. But that's cold. We need to know. And I'm going to go back to what I said before, Ms. Carpenter reiterated on. We need to know in our community, in the city of Saginaw, we need to know some of these state police. Most of them don't look like us. I don't think, and it could be, I don't think I ever come across her even in passing one of color. It may be, I have not seen. And that don't mean all people that are, Caucasian don't like black, this, that, and that. I want to know, I want to see you. I want to feel how you feel about me. And we need to bring them to the table. Because when people come to council and say we don't want them, this, that, and third, I want them to be there. I want them to be there. I want them to have that conversation. It's been time for that conversation. They need that conversation.
Hello, everyone. But I would just like to say that we should all come together and union together instead of everybody, getting heated back and forth. We should all come together. Okay, you got a plan, you got an idea. Let's everybody put our ideas down and then, come up with the best one. And we come up with a plan to, do what needs to be done as far as the state police. That's all I have.
Gotcha.
That's kind of like what Reggie was asking. Reggie was asking for ideas. I don't want us to seem like we, and I'm happy Ms. Monique and Reggie is here to represent City Council, because they is our bridge. They is our bridge. We have to talk to them. So they can talk to, like she said, they don't all vote the same. They got to convince the other members on how to move forward. So I want to thank y'all for being here and not, I don't want Reggie, even though he's not in here, I don't want him to feel like we piling up on him, even though he is representation of the police force. Like Jeff said, our issue is with Michigan State Police. We need City Council to be able to go to the city, to them and tell them this is the issue.
Absolutely. And I'll close here on the interest of time. I want to keep time. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I just want to ask something for FYI. Now, when the county, when the state, was that during the same time the civic center was taken over?
The year is 2012.
Close.
When they started that program.
Okay.
Yeah, it might have
Close, very close.
Okay. And have you noticed there's a lot of things that happen at the Down Event Center that we don't know about because they don't need us.
And
That's the point of, pointing out this program, number one, because when you have this conversation in the community and you say, you point out the Secure Cities Partnership, people be like, what's that? That's why this is an educational piece.
Right.
We have to tell people what it is. How people are mad at the state police, and yeah, we should complain, but we got to get to the bottom of it. You got to know what it is before you go and complain about it, and then come up with a solution. Personally, again, the solution for me is to get rid of it. I don't need to have much conversation about it because, again, we got 10 years of data. I can see that it started last year, and you can say, okay, well, give it time. We can work out the kinks. blah, blah, blah. You got 10 years. Y'all been here for 10 years. And even the purpose of the program is inherently racist. It's only in black communities. It's only in black communities. And the whole purpose of it is to protect downtowns. You got to get to the root of the problem before you can even talk about a solution. Why would I want that? I don't even want that. The only purpose of that program is to protect downtown, urban downtown areas, to usher in gentrification. That's what the purpose of the program is. So what are we talking about alternative? I don't want to talk about the alternative. The alternative to what? Listen, and I'll end here. Thank y'all so much. You know, we can talk about it, and y'all can get some of these cookies and stuff. So, thank y'all so much for coming. I appreciate y'all. It's humbling to have the community come out every month and we talk about these issues. Don't be dismayed. We need to have a fervent conversation that is spirited. That's okay. Because I can have a spirited conversation with Reggie and still I'm finna go right in there and hug him and say thank you for coming. It's okay. We don't have to have, even if I didn't like him and he didn't like me, we still can have the conversation and be civil adults.
Right.
Because let me tell you, and I'm sure council people will tell you, they don't all like each other. Can you work together? That's it. That's it. And that's how it needs to be with us as citizens. I don't have to like you. Can we work together? That's it. So,
Part 2?
hey, it's coming soon. Hey, Bob, I ain't even see you, man. Bob.
I ate all the cookies.
Oh, well, y'all gonna get him. So, thank y'all again for coming. Thank you so much.
That was my portion. Gotta be part 2. We only get 3 minutes.